What if I told you that long before European explorers arrived, the Americas were already connected by vast trade networks that spanned thousands of miles? Obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, shells from the Gulf of Mexico, and copper from the Great Lakes passed through the hands of indigenous traders in a complex system that shaped cultures, economies, and traditions. These weren't just simple exchanges of goods. These networks represented sophisticated systems of connection, cultural exchange, and ingenuity. How did these ancient trade systems work? And why aren't they more widely known today? For thousands of years before European colonization, the Americas were anything but isolated or static. Indigenous peoples lived in environments as diverse as the Arctic tundra, the Great Plains, and the arid Southwest. Despite the geographical challenges of rivers, deserts, and mountains, these communities were interconnected through trade. These networks were vital for survival, but they also allowed people to thrive, exchanging goods, ideas, and cultural practices that enriched their lives. It wasn't just about trading what they had for what they needed. It was about forming bonds and strengthening communities. Without the wheel or large pack animals, how did they manage to transport goods across such immense distances? The answer lies in their ingenuity and their deep relationship with the land. One of the most fascinating aspects of indigenous trade networks is the diversity of goods that traveled across the continent. These weren't just items of necessity. They were often resources of spiritual, cultural, or symbolic significance. Obsidian, a volcanic glass prized for its sharpness and shiny appearance, was one of the most widely traded materials. Found in the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Northwest, it was shaped into tools, weapons, and ceremonial objects. Archaeologists have discovered obsidian artifacts thousands of miles from their source, highlighting the vast reach of these networks. Copper from the Great Lakes was another valuable resource. Indigenous miners extracted the metal using stone tools, shaping it into beads, tools, and decorative items. These copper artifacts have been found as far south as the Gulf of Mexico, underscoring the long-distance connections. Shells from the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic were in high demand in the interior regions. These shells, often turned into jewelry and ceremonial items, carried immense symbolic value. Similarly, turquoise from the Southwest was prized for its vibrant color and spiritual significance, while mica from the Appalachian Mountains was used to create reflective ornaments and figurines. Trade also included food and plants. Corn, domesticated in Mexico, spread northward through trade, becoming a staple crop as far north as the Great Lakes and New England. These exchanges didn't just distribute goods. They helped spread innovations and agricultural techniques that transformed communities. The transportation of these goods relied on natural pathways and human ingenuity. Rivers were the lifeblood of many trade routes, serving as highways for canoes carrying goods. Major rivers like the Mississippi, Missouri, and Ohio connected vast regions, making it possible to move goods and ideas across great distances. Overland trails were equally important. Paths worn down by generations of travelers connected the interior of the continent to coastal regions. Even the Appalachian Mountains, often seen as barriers, were navigated using valleys and passes. In the Southwest, trails across deserts connected Puebloan communities with distant trade partners. These routes weren't just practical, they were cultural arteries. Along with them, traders shared not only goods, but also stories, rituals, and innovations, helping to shape the diverse cultures of pre-Columbian America. Specific locations became significant trade hubs, acting as gathering points for different groups. Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, was one of the most considerable trade centers. At its peak, around 1100 CE, Cahokia was home to tens of thousands of people. Its location near the Mississippi River made it an ideal hub, and goods from as far away as the Gulf Coast and the Great Lakes have been discovered there. Chaco Canyon, in the arid Southwest, was another center of trade and culture. The massive stone buildings, known as great houses, served as storage and meeting places for traders. Turquoise, pottery, and other goods flowed through Chaco Canyon, connecting it to regions as distant as Mesoamerica. In the Ohio River Valley, the Hopewell culture established trade hubs marked by elaborate earthworks and burial mounds. These sites contained obsidian, copper, and mica artifacts, demonstrating their role as key nodes in the trade network. Trade in indigenous America wasn't just about economics. It had a deep spiritual dimension. Rituals or ceremonies often accompanied many traded items held symbolic or religious significance, and their exchange. Shells, for instance, were associated with water and fertility, while obsidian symbolized fire and transformation. The act of trading itself reinforced alliances, established trust, and maintained peace between groups. These exchanges went beyond material goods. They were a way to build relationships and honor shared values. One of the most remarkable aspects of these networks was their role in spreading ideas and cultural practices. Pottery styles, agricultural techniques, and even religious beliefs traveled along with goods. For instance, the cultivation of corn, which began in Mexico, spread through trade, transforming diets and societies across the continent. Similarly, artistic motifs like spiral patterns and geometric designs appeared in distant regions, evidence of shared inspiration and cultural exchange. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas disrupted these indigenous trade networks in profound ways. Diseases brought by European settlers decimated populations, while colonization and resource extraction upended traditional systems. European goods, such as metal tools and firearms, entered the networks, altering the balance of power between groups. Despite these disruptions, many indigenous trade practices persisted, adapting to the changing realities of colonization. Today, indigenous peoples continue to trade and share resources, preserving traditions that have endured for thousands of years. Long before European explorers arrived, the Americas were already connected by a vast web of trade routes. These networks weren't just about exchanging goods. They were about forging connections, sharing ideas, and creating thriving communities. From the obsidian of the Rockies to the shells of the Gulf Coast, indigenous trade networks shape the continent in ways that still resonate today. They reveal a history of innovation, resilience, and connection that deserves to be celebrated and remembered. Watch the following video to explore how ancient indigenous cities flourished at the heart of these trade networks.